Do you want to own a sports team but don't have a few $billion lying around to buy one? Well, there's another way, and that's what we're going to talk about today on the Financial Beanstalk. Welcome back to the Financial Beanstalk. My name is Nick, and like I said, today we're talking about sports.
We like sports and we don't care who knows.
If you haven't noticed from the carousel of hats that I wear in my videos, or that my very first video was about baseball, I'm a big sports guy. And I think if I had one extreme, probably a little bit ridiculous, definitely out of reach financial goal, it would be to own a sports team one day. But hey, maybe if this channel takes off, I can buy one and we can name it the Beanstalkers. To put it in perspective, the New York Mets recently sold to hedge fund manager Steve Cohen for $2.475 billion. I have $2.475, I'm just missing a couple billion. And as of today, the most valuable sports team in the 4 major leagues in the United States is the Dallas Cowboys, even though they are trash. Sorry, Cowboys fans. They're still worth a whopping $6 billion. So they're completely out of the question for me. So maybe let's try the cheapest team, which brings us over to the National Hockey League and the Arizona Coyotes, worth $285 million. Still not up my alley. Not even close to my neighborhood. There have been a couple times where you could buy shares in the Green Bay Packers, but that's nothing more than a slip of paper and a way for them to take more of your money. And besides, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I don't want to get disowned by my family, and I couldn't in good conscience buy them even if I had the means. Skol Vikings, even though they're also trash. So where does that leave us? Well, if it wasn't obvious, since this is a personal finance and investing YouTube channel, we're going to the stock market. First up, we've got the only directly publicly traded sports team in the US, and oddly enough, its English soccer team, Manchester United. Ticker symbol MANU. I have contemplated buying a share of Manchester United just to say that I own a sports team, and I still might because currently they're only trading for $15.98. But I really only know 2 things about Manchester United. Wayne Rooney used to play for them, and they were featured in the movie Euro Trip.
The greatest football team in the world.
I still feel like soccer hasn't fully caught on in the US, so let's look elsewhere. We're going back to the city so nice they named it twice. New York. Manhattan is the other name. I'm talking about the Madison Square Garden Company. Now there's 2 divisions of the Madison Square Garden Company, the Madison Square Garden Entertainment Division and the Madison Square Garden Sports Corporation. They're the same company, they just separated out those operations last year to separate their venue operations from their sports teams. We're focusing on the sports side. Ticker symbol MSGS, which owns the New York Knicks of the NBA and the New York Rangers of the NHL. They also own a couple minor league teams. But I'll be honest, I've never been a New York sports fan because they just seem like a bunch of cake eaters that can throw all this money around to sign whoever they want to win championships. They've been making super teams since before LeBron James was born. So let's try the other coast. Ticker symbol NTDOY for Nintendo and the Seattle Mariners. Surprising, right? Nintendo was the majority owner of the team, but they actually sold that majority interest back in 2016 to John Stanton. They still have a 10% stake in the team. But I can't imagine that the success of the Mariners ever moved the needle for Nintendo. And they're traded on the over-the-counter market, so it's a little more difficult to buy them. But I thought it was kind of funny when I learned about this one. We're going back to Major League Baseball with Liberty Media, which owns the Atlanta Braves. Now, if you search Liberty Media on your brokerage, you'll likely get a little lost because there's ticker symbols LSXMA, BATRA, BATRK, FWONA, FWONK, and the list goes on. If you're interested in the Atlanta Braves, you're going to want BATRA for their A-class shares, which just means you have voting rights. If you don't care about that and just want to say you own the team, you'll look at BATRK. Gosh, that's a lot of letters. Liberty Media also has a stake in another sport, Formula One. Now, I've been super into Formula One lately because I've been watching F1 Drive to Survive on Netflix, and I'm just realizing how much money is actually in the sport. I mean, one of their top drivers, Lewis Hamilton, has a net worth of $285 million. So if you're interested in their Formula One divisions, look at their FWON ticker symbols. Kind of similar to Liberty Media, we have Comcast Spectacor, which is a subdivision of Comcast, ticker symbol CMCSA, which owns the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, I don't think I've ever heard a good thing about Comcast as a company, so even if I was a huge Flyers fan, I probably wouldn't invest in them. If we look to our friends to the north, we have Rogers Communications, ticker symbol RCI, which owns the Toronto Blue Jays. They also have a 37.5% ownership of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, which owns the Maple Leafs, the Raptors, Toronto FC of the MLS, and the Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. They also own all of their minor league teams as well. Again, the sports teams probably play a very minor role in their overall business, but if you own Rogers Communications, you'd have quite the portfolio of sports teams. This one's a little more obscure, but if you're a fan of the Miami Heat,
let's go Heat!
Then Carnival Cruise might be for you. Ticker symbol CCL. Now, the only way this one is related is the owner of the Miami Heat, Mickey Arison, is also the chairman of Carnival Cruise. But outside of that, they don't have any relation. The Boston Red Sox were this close to being publicly traded via SPAC. The Redball Acquisition Company, ticker symbol RBAC, led by Billy Beane, the former general manager of the Oakland Athletics, the Moneyball guy, was trying to get an ownership stake in the Red Sox, but unfortunately the deal fell through. And the stock price of RBAC when that news broke completely plummeted. But maybe you're just a big fan of Moneyball, so you could still buy Redball if you want. If you're a big fan of horse racing, you can invest in Churchill Downs, ticker symbol CHDN. Churchill Downs operates one of the biggest horse races of the year, the Kentucky Derby. Or you could just buy one of these NFT horses that I keep hearing about. If you like the WWE, they're publicly traded under that ticker symbol.
It's still real to me.
I think I'll just sponsor a local softball team at this point. There are many other ways to invest in sports or buy stock in companies that have an influence on sports, with apparel companies like Nike, or the booming sports betting industry with companies like DraftKings, but we'll cover those another day. Let me know in the comment section below if any of the stocks that I mentioned today are ones you're interested in, or if you could buy a sports team, which one you would buy. I'll leave a link in the description as well to the values of all the teams in the 4 major leagues in the United States, according to Forbes. And just to reiterate one last time, there's a lot more that goes into these businesses than the team's success. But I am curious enough to dig into their financial statements to see how much of an impact these teams have on them as an overall company. So YouTube mumbo jumbo, that subscribe button, that like button, and that bell notification so you don't miss any future videos. I truly appreciate you watching, and let's continue to grow this beanstalk.